Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Newton.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am okay. We put my dog down this morning, so my last dog, so I'm still a bit touched
I'm
by that, but I'm
so
okay. Better,
sorry.
better place. He had bladder cancer and it got so that it spread throughout his entire body. So, but
Oh, man.
I am okay. I am okay. He's in a better place and I accept that as what it is. So,
Thank you.
may I ask you to please tell us your name
Yeah, Mara McCloughlin.
and will you share a little bit about Mara McLaughlin that you feel comfortable sharing? Tell us a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you.
Yes, well, I mean, I'm a professional speech language pathologist. And that's a person who specializes in communication disorders. My background is long and storied, and includes having taught yoga to the Portland Trailblazers.
Really?
Um, yeah, put out my own yoga magazine. Taught yoga in the schools and to unhoused populations, including kids, everyone from 18 months old until adult. And yeah, and so now my profession has shifted, and I'm a speech language pathologist working primarily as a specialist with alternative and augmentative communication, for people who either have a developmental disability like autism,
Mhm.
or people who have an acquired communication disorder such as aphasia, as a result from a stroke.
That's very, very interesting, very, very varied background. So let me ask you a question about the pathologist, the speech pathology point. So my father, I did not know him well when I was young. I didn't get to see him until I was 25 years old. But one of the things he had a very pronounced stutter. I mean,
Mhm.
he would start, and especially if he was excited or he had something really important to say, and he couldn't get his words out, right? So he would struggle with it, and he did not like you to notice. He didn't want you to point out how long it took him to get a word out, right, or to say something. And is that kind of speech disability? Does it affect your self-esteem? Does it affect how you see yourself? Does it affect how you live in a world with people who do not have such challenges?
Oh, most certainly. I mean, we live in an ableist society, along with all of the other ists, and we our implicit bias, unless you have some kind of specialized training or are a person who is experiencing this disability personally, our implicit bias is like, oh, so that person can't talk right. That must mean they are intellectually disabled, that they have a mental illness, that they are drunk, that they are on drugs. There's some reason, like, and it's a nefarious reason for why they can't communicate fluently and efficiently. Um, and yeah, I mean, can have incredible impacts on one's self-esteem because people are looking at you and they're thinking of you in a certain way.
Mhm.
When you have average to above average intelligence, but you have a disability, a communication disorder.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
that that's very helpful to know because I was wondered about that. I didn't have a good sense about that because as I said, I didn't know him until I was a grown person and then he
Uh-huh.
died. But one of the other things that I want to ask about the speech piece. So um I used to be very, 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 very smart.
Uh-huh.
And then I turned 50 and it started going downhill quickly.
Oh
One of
Lord.
the things that I find troubling is sometimes I can't find words. And when I
Hmm.
do find the word, I can't pronounce it. So, like, I know the word, I have pronounced it a gazillion times, but at some point it gets in my brain, it gets stuck, and I cannot find it, or I cannot pronounce it, or I can't articulate it. And
Hmm.
so, is that truly a sign of aging, or is it just that my brain said, "Yeah, I'm tired with that stuff. Let me unplug."
Well, I mean, so that's an interesting question. Thank you for that question. Um, we have, as we age, things do slow down. Um, However, There's a lot of contributing factors to that. I mean, we are under an enormous amount of stress
Mhm.
right now as as a country, as a culture. Um, that has an impact. Um, being not able to recall a word, that happens. Everyone has those kinds of disfluencies in their life. Oh, what's the word? It's on the tip of my tongue. I mean, it's a saying because it happens.
Right.
So, um, we can offer, you can be like, oh, what's it start with? We can, teach strategies. Um, Sometimes people they can just take the time, and if they can start and they can write it or type it into their phone and like, oh yeah, and that jogs the process of the expressive communication. Yeah. Or a word that is, a synonym, a word that means the same thing that is more easily accessed. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can do that. And, it's difficult when I mean, we're always judging each other.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So
And,
go ahead. I'm sorry if you had more.
oh, just to say that that's, a judgment that is pretty prevalent in our society is that, oh, but this person doesn't have the gift of gab. They must not be smart. If I put a piece of duct tape over your mouth, would you still be able to think, plan, and make decisions? Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. So let's go to the yoga part now. So tell me how you began as a yoga instructor and why did you leave your work as a yoga instructor?
Well, I started as a yoga instructor because when I did yoga, I first started doing yoga to accommodate for a birth defect in my back.
Mhm.
And I was, young, and they told me I had to have surgery. I was 14 and I was like, no way, I'm not having surgery. What do I need to do? I need to support the bones. What supports the bones? The muscles support the bones. I need to make the muscles stronger. So I just started doing things that were, that strengthened my core.
Mhm.
And then I started studying, and this was when I was young. And then when I was 10 years later, I started studying with a yoga teacher. And then I just was like, wow, I just know a little bit, but I know this is so helpful for humanity. So I'm going to start sharing it.
Mhm.
And I got my certification at the Temple of Kriya Yoga in Chicago. And then I said, what do I want to do? I want to write and teach yoga. And I started a yoga magazine.
Mhm.
And the yoga magazine was free. It increased in distribution from 10,000 to 40,000
Wow.
copies over the course of a year and a half.
Mhm.
It didn't just walk off the shelf,
Right. Right.
people picked it up, and we distributed from Northern California to Vancouver, BC. It was the West Coast's only yoga specific
Mhm.
periodical at the time.
Mhm.
And ironically, I was stressed to the gills putting out a yoga magazine
Word. Okay.
because it was free, and it was, and I had a little seed money. I paid my staff. I had a brilliant staff of designers and writers and photographers, several of whom I'm still friends with to this day, like, with very strong bonds.
Mhm.
And then I said, and I suspended publication of the magazine because I was too stressed out and it wasn't making money and I was getting in a hole financially.
Mhm.
And so I said, well, I'm just going to teach yoga to the unhoused.
Mhm.
And I did that for a while, and I was put myself through school.
Mhm.
I was like, how am I going to be 40 and have, teaching yoga for free to unhoused kids, and waiting tables. And, I mean, there's a lot of competition for the yoga business in Portland. And now yoga is like real, it's real mainstream. And it didn't go the way of the yo-yo or the hula hoop because it is so beneficial for mind, body, and spirit.
Mhm.
And then I was at a point in my life where I needed, the like security of health benefits and pension and those sorts of things. So I got my degrees back to back and started working in the schools primarily with nonverbal, low verbal, pre-verbal autistic children.
Mhm.
and adults.
Mhm. And then you eventually moved on from that population, I'm assuming, into more adult and more private sector areas teaching yoga.
Well, I'm not currently teaching yoga. I'm just working in my profession,
No,
although I do draw on that experience.
what I meant was when you got your degrees and you moved you then went to another level of teaching. You taught athletes, I believe. So I'm just trying to get the progression. So
Oh yeah. Yeah, I taught athletes and that was amazing. And then I taught after that, then I was doing the magazine and then I suspended publication of the magazine and then I just started working with the unhoused kids at a place called the Community Transitional School
mhm,
where they send out the bus to wherever kids are living. They might be in a tent, in a car, in a hotel, doubled up in a house, but doubled up with family or friends, and they would bring them to school. And I was there at the school. We did every year we put on a performance, and our last year was a hip hop yoga play called "Be What You Are and Do What You Do." And I brought in people from the hip hop community to teach them about the 5 pillars of hip hop. And so those are emceeing, breakdancing or b-boy, turntablism,
mhm.
uh, then graffiti, and then the fifth pillar is knowledge of self.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, and so that was what I did, and then I went into my profession.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And do you now continue to practice yoga yourself?
I do, yeah, I'm a yoga head. Hmm.
Very good. And tell me, what's the correlation between meditation and yoga? How, because I often hear them linked to each other. What's the logic of that?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, some might say that yoga is a moving meditation,
Mhm,
and you have to have your mind on what your body is doing, what your breath is doing, where your attention is focused.
mhm,
And that's what makes that in itself a meditation. But to be trying to meditate while you're doing yoga, like meditate on something else,
mhm,
it doesn't work. you know yeah, and the type of yoga I practice is a hatha yoga, of a lineage called shadow yoga.
mhm.
And it in the shadows, we are it's not by looking at your lightness that you'll become enlightened. It's by looking at your darkness and your shadows, those things that are that you don't might not really want to look at because it's painful and hard, but it is only by looking at our darkness that we will become enlightened.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. You need to say that 2 or 3 more times. That's absolutely beautiful. Um, so, um, in your current career, in currently what you do, and it sounds like to me you're a very empathetic person. You understand, you reach people where they may not be comfortable going, even with your current work and your yoga work. So, how stressful is it to have a role like yours? And how do you manage that? How do you self manage yourself so that you can pick up and do that every single day, do it day in and day out?
Huh. Oh, well, in my line of work, we tend to be rather perfectionist. Um, and, we have to contend with that. For me personally, I have to tell myself that, this will not be fixed in a day. This is a process. This is a marathon. Language acquisition is a process when I'm working with the littles, the little ones, and they are impacted by autism, the developmental disability. They're they have often co-occurring something that's called apraxia,
Mhm,
which praxis means movement.
mhm,
Apraxia is the absence of movement. So the messages they're trying to get from their brain to their mouth, teeth, tongue, soft palate, all of the articulators are the wires are crossed.
mhm,
And so, like, there's upwards of 50% of autistic kids also have apraxia. So that's why they can't talk. And there's also the impacts of the sensory system, meaning that depending on the person, their senses are heightened, like they're something that's really doesn't bother a neurotypical person could be just unbearable for someone with autism, like eye contact,
Yeah.
for example. Like sounds, like the sensation of the tag, in your clothes, can make you jump out of your skin if you have autism. Um, and to acquire language is very important. As speech language pathologists, we have something, we have our ethical code and standards, and there's a communication bill of rights which we are um, you know supposed to follow,
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to bring people communication uh, across the spectrum of disabilities. And it takes time, it can be frustrating, like somebody you it's very important to train environments, to train parents, to train school staff, to train employers,
Mm-hmm.
and to build capacity in the environments. Because why should the onus be on the person with the disability only?
Yeah.
No, it has to be the person with a disability is working, and the people in the environment are also working. So we work together in collaboration to have the best results. So yeah, I just tell myself that, Rome wasn't built in a day, and these things take time, and you just have to have patience and keep at it. It's a good fight to fight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a worthwhile fight. A very, very, very
Absolutely.
worthwhile fight. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So this is a diversity chat, and I'm going to ask you not from the perspective of ethnicity or such, but specifically, as you have done your career from where you started to where you are now, what were the challenges you experienced as a woman? What were the things that were most salient that happened to you that stuck with you? And what are the things you've been able to, box up and put it in its proper place?
Hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, as a woman in the workplace, we are subjected to discrimination, and especially it's funny because in my field, people know occupational therapists, physical therapists, but speech therapists, they're kind of given the like um, the short end of the stick. Like, oh, well, she just comes in here and we just talk, or like she's just down on the floor playing with kids. Like, what's that? Without, they don't think there's an actual methodology that we're following. So that is something that, and our field is predominantly women.
Mhm,
Um, we we're like, and speech, don't forget speech. We have to like advocate for ourselves
mhm,
as a profession, and we also just as we advocate for our clients.
mhm,
um the um what I've run up against in terms of the patriarchy is just not being seen as a person who has knowledge and skills about a very specific
mhm.
um, part of our being. And what we do is we help people communicate, and we help people swallow and
Right,
eat. I
right.
mean, those are pretty vital,
That's
parts of life.
life
Um,
thing.
mhm. I had an experience as being an advocate for a friend who had a stroke, and my expertise was really not welcome in that arena.
Mhm,
Even though, because they were like, oh, he's disabled, he can't work, he's disabled, he can't. And I was like, yes, he can, with supports, with a communication device. And in fact, I actually assembled 1,200 pages of documentation for this friend to submit to a lawyer to present to his employer, which was a multi-billion-dollar beverage corporation, the name of which we all know. And they ended up paying him a large settlement because it was a clear-cut case of discrimination and not abiding by the Americans with Disabilities Act. So, my expertise can actually make people a lot of money.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. And that's important, right?
Hmm.
So when you encountered these challenges, what were your thoughts? I mean, like, I'll see if I can ask this in a different way. This may be a bit complicated, but I'm just trying to answer as simply as I can. So a lot of times when people make judgments about us or assumptions about what we can and can't do or who we are not, sometimes we put it on. We wear that coat, so someone says you're not that smart, and we put on that coat. Or someone says you're not whatever it is that they've decided that you aren't. We put on that coat. And that coat becomes like this heavy gunny sack that you're wearing on yourself. And you keep allowing rocks to be put in that sack, so the point that it's just dragging you down. And in my mind, for women, we are nurturers by nature.
Hmm.
That's who we are. And a lot of times we accept what people tell us we are. We accept when someone says you can't or you shouldn't, or when they question, you on the floor, helping a child learn to talk and making that child feel comfortable, or whatever the circumstances are. Someone then says, here's the answer for here's why you are the way you are. So in your work, I mean, going from yoga to pathology, speech pathology, how have you been able to overcome those types of challenges? What have you done for yourself to overcome those types of challenges?
Such a great question. Um, One thing that I have done is draw on my yoga background and practice mantra. So mantra can also be considered like chanting.
Mhm.
A chant or a mantra that I repeat to myself over and over when I was in like really bad places of self doubt and self loathing, and having a lot of um, pressures against me. I would do this one. I am whole, I am complete, I am worthy, I am divine, I am whole, I am complete, I am worthy, I am divine. And I just say it over and over again. So you're creating that groove in your brain
Right.
that tells you and it's a self-healing. It's self-healing. Mhm.
That is beautiful. That is that. Say it again.
I am whole, I am complete, I am worthy, I am divine.
That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. That I might have to write that down and start saying it to myself. Thank you
It's
so
really
much.
helpful. It really helps, because and it's true.
I think I agree with you completely, but like I can tell you the story from the Black woman's perspective, specifically this Black woman. So
Please.
many times life has told me I'm unworthy, I'm unvaluable, I'm not smart, I'm not this, I'm not that. What's wrong with my nose? What's wrong with my lips, my hips, and all of these things. And after a while, you hear them all the time. And I think you may be able to identify this with authentic kids or people who are judged. I mean, people who are judged or labeled, it's like maybe they know something I don't. Maybe they
Right.
see something I don't see. You know, when you have a visual disability, we don't judge quite so hard for if someone
Mhm.
has a stroke, missing a leg or whatever. We don't judge quite the same. But when you have, for lack of a better, a cognitive disability, we assign some sort of value to that. So then to be Black,
Mhm.
female,
Mhm.
you know, all of the stereotypes that they lump on top of me, I have to figure out how to navigate them. So, is it possible through the tools that you have developed and the mantra that you have that these ideas and words can really change lives of people if they actually take hold of them and believe them to be true?
I believe so, and I think we have some amazing masters and teachers who have gone before us, especially in the Black community, that will tell you that Black people are magic.
I've
They
heard that.
have gone through um, such a journey, and and so many trials and tribulations and horrible things. For your existence is a miracle, you know, and that is true. And I do sincerely hope that the needle is moving in terms of social justice around that, and around being Black in America. The and Yeah, and so you have to make like your force field that says, you know what, I know who I am. I know what I bring. I have the support of the ancestors, who have gotten me to this place. I mean, like, how many thousands of ancestors have gotten us all to this place?
Absolutely.
And how
Absolutely.
much trauma is there, And when we heal our own trauma, we heal the ancestors and the descendants
Wow,
up and down the line.
that's beautiful.
Hmm.
There was an article, and it's been researched, a lot, that suggests that the Holocaust, the Japanese internment camps, slavery, all of these things have embedded upon our gene pool, our genealogy, our DNA, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so getting out of your own way sometimes, meaning understanding how to analyze that PTSD and understand what does that mean, right? So um, the fact that someone, I often say this, the fact that the majority of people in America came here because they wanted a better life, regardless of their ethnicity, they came. But Black people, we did not come here seeking a better life. We did not come here to be a part of this country. We were brought here for economic reasons and then turned into cruel and hateful reasons. And
Hmm.
so as I think about who I am, and I am all those four words you said, and I also add that I am beautiful, I am smart, I'm all these things, but there's constantly someone telling me that I'm not, constantly telling me that I'm not, you know. When you apply for a job or you go for a job, you literally have to know everybody in the organization to get a real good shot at it, especially if you're going for a senior leadership job. It's just not possible to get it just because you've got a strong background. You've done all this work. It's not there. And one of the things I love about talking to women is my mantra. We need to see the value in each other and
Yes.
to support each other, not compete, not for a man, not for a job, but just see the value in each other. And if we could come together as a group, all of these first and these unrealistic assumptions that people apply on top of us. So I heard someone say when Hillary Clinton was running for president that a woman could never be a president because she would know the codes, and when she had her time of the month, she'd hit the button. And that was so inflammatory to me. I mean, that's just absolutely stupid. We don't go out and kill people when it's that time of the month when we're just in our regular life. What the hell makes you think she would do that? As a president. But there are some false narratives out there that tells us, you know, Mara, I cannot be really close to you. I can't help you. I can't really be your whatever it is because you and I are competitors. You want what I want, and I think I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but I think that's the most ludicrous thing in the world. If I, Rochelle Rebecca Newton, can help you, Mara McCloughlin, achieve, I achieve. If you can grow and fly and change the world, I get the remnants of that. I get results of that. For some reason, we put it in women's minds that we must be catty and whatever the other 5011 terms there are out there, but that we can't see each other as the beautiful, valuable, smart, wonderful persons that we are, and that we come together with each other. We didn't get the right to vote till many years after Black men got the right to vote, but we only got it because women came together. What we know now as a feminist was because women came together, and that's still a bit uncomfortable for some men, but too bad. But women must see each other's value. We must
Absolutely.
we must wrap our arms around each other. Maybe not during COVID. I'm wrapping my arms around you right now. Not during COVID, but to actually do everything we can to change the spectrum for girls who become women, who become leaders. The field that I work in some ways like yours, girls are told you're not smart enough to do that. You can't do science like that. You don't do math well. And we believe it. We believe
Lies.
it. Lies. We believe it, that this is too hard. Yet and still in 2017, I believe it was, maybe even later, earlier, women overtook men in getting college degrees across the entire spectrum. But yet
Mhm.
still, we're not. So my work, my interest, diversity is near and dear to my heart. I spend every minute of my life trying to think about how we understand diversity. And I think that we equate diversity to ethnicity or skin color.
Right.
I don't think that. I think we equate diversity in my mind. Diversity is the things that you do, actions, the
Hmm.
ideas that cross your mind. When you come up with that great idea, you want to create a company, that you have people around you that are different from you, and that you have thoughts that continually advance and change as you evolve. That's how I define diversity. But to me, the piece that is hardest is gender. It is
Uh-huh.
gender because the boys that got the club, they own the club, they go whenever they want to, they do what they want. But we don't take that power and say, yes, I can. I'm going into the club too. I'm going to start my own club and you're not allowed in. What are you going to do to get to be a member of this club? So I would like to know what your thoughts are about women in the work that you do, but women just in general. How do you relate, and what are the things that you do to amplify those that are part of your life and those that maybe not?
Well, I love women. I, as a mentor myself to other women, I tell them align with powerful women. Do
That's
not compete. Collaborate with powerful women. That is how we get things done. So that is like you're preaching to the choir on that one,
I
Dr.
love.
Um, the uh, we have there's there are barriers. It is a patriarchy. It is so far a man's world. But I mean, wasn't it so glorious to see Kamala Harris say, "I'm speaking,"
Oh
and
yes, absolutely powerful.
I know, and I'm like, okay, and she didn't lose her cool. I mean, you gotta, if you get emotionally dysregulated, then you are hysterical.
Exactly.
Huh. So you have to, but you need to process your emotions. You just have to, decide on the time and place. And uh, we, in terms of like gender and diversity, um, yeah, we'll have to um keep pushing. Um, and there are so many examples and instances of women, making inventions, in the STEM fields. Women who are, there's not a lot of examples of women CEOs, but there are some.
That's all.
Yep. And the, yeah, I mean, really, mostly I would say, we have to align with each other. I've had my share of, I look around at my group of like strong women friends and I'm like, wow, like, I mean, whoa, look who I associate with.
Right.
Like, and that's a reflection on me, because I'm like, these women are so amazing and they're so accomplished and they're, so beautiful and brilliant. And I'm like, oh, but I'm in this group.
And
So I
one of
am
them.
too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm. So you need to like look at the vibration of the folks around you and be like, oh, are they bringing my vibration down or are they elevating my vibration? And then, look at how you can, like you said, the perfect word is amplify, how you can amplify, what women are doing, what they're accomplishing, how they're being thought leaders. the work that they do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's very, very
I
nice.
mean, it reminds me of, there's the, so, we are under, the thumb of cis heteropatriarchy, imperialism. And the men, like I saw this awesome picture yesterday of, it was, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, but it was Mary like giving birth, you know, and like the babe was crowning and Joseph is there. And I'm like, that is so strong and powerful, and that strong, that strength and that power is scary to men,
Yes,
and men, just like, just like, white people are afraid of black people, like, oh, they're going to want to do to us what we did to them. Men are afraid that women are going to want to do to them what they did to us. No, it's not about revenge. It is about equity.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so beautiful because I think that that's such a one of the things when I started doing these diversity chats, I will tell you something, and I will tell you almost every last one of them is so painful to me. I just sometimes I have to break down and cry after I listen to some of these chats because like some of the stories that I hear people share their experiences and what they've done, and they're still struggling.
Mm-hmm.
you know and it's not clear to me why. It's not clear to me what is it about our society makes it necessary for us to delve into the most darkest places of our society and then go and then be okay. So when I was 19, I was raped. I was raped in broad daylight. People standing all around me, less than 6 feet around me. The man put a knife to my neck and raped me in broad daylight. In daylight. And today, I'm mostly over it. I don't go out at night. I don't go out by myself, but I'm mostly over it. And I think that that tool, if you could call it that, I don't even know what the right word is for that thing, but whatever that is, has got to be about power. It cannot be about intimacy. It just can't.
Mm-mm.
And to think that that happens so frequently everywhere in the world, that some woman has her person violated by some idiot who thinks he is inferior or something. So he's going to go take his power by doing something like this to a woman. And it's one of the reasons why, I've been married to my husband for 20 some thousand years. And I think we've been married like 3 or 4 lifetimes ago. But my husband is a gentle, kind man. And I sometimes talk to him about rape and things like this. Why is it necessary? Why are men so enthralled with putting a notch on their belt? And he said something to me one day that was really profound to me. He said, in many cases, we don't know who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So when you think about that, if we as women know that, how do we unwrite the script that we're living and continuing to live? So we got the right to vote. I don't know how many years ago it was. We're still struggling. We can't break plastic glass or cement ceiling, as I like to call it. We're still being questioned about what we are and are not capable of doing. Um, where are what is it that we must do? What can we do? And I ask you this from the part of you that is your yoga, your guruish, self, like what is it that we as women must find internal to ourselves in order to challenge these arrows that are being shot at us almost every single day?
Oh, well, first, thank you for sharing your story with me. Um, and I'm sorry that happened to you. It is a good point that your husband makes about, not knowing that men don't know themselves, because men are also under this thumb. Um, and what I would say in terms of how to like break through the cement ceiling, there's a man, he was an inventor named Buckminster Fuller, and he was the inventor of the geodesic dome.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And he
Thought I
said,
heard that
you
name.
know, yeah, we need to make a new reality that makes the old reality obsolete. So, we like turn away from, we just, um, you know, turn away from that playing it in a man's way. We have to play to our strengths as women and be able to move the needle with our strengths. I mean, the right to vote happened 100 years ago. Hmm. Um, so, and there's progress. It's not as fast as we want it. It's not as broad as we want it. Um, but progress is happening. And the, I mean, until we create that new reality, to make the old reality obsolete, we have to continue to be our best selves.
Absolutely. Mara, thank you so much for chatting. I've learned so much from you today. It's been absolutely phenomenal. So thank you so much for agreeing to chat with me. And
Thank you.
I am going to leave you the balance of time to share whatever you want to share that I didn't cover or you didn't cover. And then once the video converts, I will send you a link to it. Watch it carefully, and then let me know if I may upload it.
Okay.
The time is yours.
Oh, well, I also wanted to just say thank you for sharing your grief around your dog. I know that is a special, that is a unique pain, and we need to um, we need to build our capacity for empathy and compassion, both of which are also social skills. Social skills is an emphasis of my business, teaching autistic teens and young adults, or adults for that matter, social skills, because that's part of the deficit, is the what is called theory of mind, being able to like take another person's perspective and walk in their shoes. It is really, uh, just like what's happening in our world right now. Unless racism specifically impacts you don't think it's a real thing. Unless COVID specifically impacts you don't think it's a real thing. Unless you have, you know, built that empathy and compassion muscle in yourself to be like, how would that feel? How would it feel? I mean, that's the old Bob Dylan, like, how does it feel? You gotta be like, how does it feel to be that person? And what would I think if I were that person? You know? Um, and that is a process that, like, oh gosh, that would be really hurtful. That would be really painful. So people like kind of sometimes don't want to have that empathy, because to do so would like make them put them in touch with their own pain and their own trauma, because we all have it. I mean, like the men have it. I mean, the white, the people of European descent who came over here by choice. I mean, it was by choice, but it was also like as a result of war, famine, religious prosecution, and like, okay, but we had to leave our land, our language, our medicines, our cultures, and assimilate here. And there's trauma there too. And it's a lot of unresolved trauma. And it's to heal it's a painful process. Healing is painful.
Can I just ask you a question right there? I don't want you to interrupt
Oh,
your statement, but just give me for 1 minute. So the religious prosecution, so they were upset with King George and whoever else was doing whatever they were doing, and so they decided they would come to America. How do you go from being persecuted yourself to persecuting others? Like, what switch flipped that said, these horrible things that this man has done to us, and we're going to leave so we can practice our religion and we can live our lives the way we want to, we can be free and whatever. And then someone comes up with this brilliant idea. We're going to go to Africa and pull these people back, and we're going to persecute them after we've been persecuted. We knew the trauma of being persecuted ourselves. So why would we inflict that on others? And I would go a little bit further, a step further to say, I don't know, I didn't read much about King George. I'm more interested in American history than European history. But I don't know. I don't believe King George hung people by the neck or killed or lynched or burns people's towns down in order to get his point across or whatever it was he was doing. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to get that in there. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, 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 don't be sorry. It's a valid point, and it's a mystifying question. Probably because they haven't processed, you know, their own pain of that, and like it's like it's so much easier to, put the pain out, and to like have the scapegoat. I mean, I'm my background. I'm Irish Sicilian, so
Wow.
and the Irish people, like the writings about Irish people were, oh, they speak in gibberish. They're strong and athletic and lazy. Who's that sound like?
Exactly.
you know I
And
mean, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna racialize you as white, because then we'll have this more conglomeration of power, and then we can all scapegoat this other group. And the scapegoat, in biblical times, was literally a goat
yep,
that
absolutely.
the people put their sins on
Yeah,
and then sent it out, and like, oh, okay, phew, like now we don't have to process our own sin and our own pain,
right.
because now we put it on the scapegoat.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Mara, I will tell you, I don't know what you do in your part-time thing, but you need to get you a side hustle, because I'm gonna tell you something. Your knowledge and your awareness is very, very poignant. It's very, very helpful. It's cathartic. It kind of gives you that feeling of, the world isn't as terrible as I thought it was. So before we started this call, I was, sprouting around the drain of depression. But now I feel so much better. So I will just tell you, you might need to, start becoming a public speaker and going around having these conversations like I'm having, so that people can really find, because I'm not attempting to heal the strains of diversity and discrimination and racism. I'm not. I just want people to get their stories out there so it can be told. I have my own little side hustle, my own little private company, and we work on diversity, but we work on it from a different angle. We help women by defining themselves as a brand. So instead of being Mara McCloughlin, you are Apple. Just to use an example, like, but you see yourself just like Apple sees itself. You're a brand, because when we go get a job, we're we're hoping, we're so fearful that we may not get it, right? So we end up taking less money. We don't speak up our voice. Whereas your male counterpart will go, and he's walking in there knowing, you know, I'm not coming here if you don't give me X, Y, and Z. So that's where my diversity work is helping people to see their value, helping companies understand how to make their employees feel valued and heard so that they are more productive for their organization. So but what you have said here today, I really tell you, it's a game changer. I mean, I really think that you should find some way to put that in a nice box and sell it, because that's pretty deep. I mean, that it really is. So
Well, I'm working on it, and I do have, my own, teacher in terms of like my own racialization, and and my own unlearning. I have black friends, and they're like, I swear you were black in a past life. I mean, and being Sicilian is not that far off.
I mean, remember, the Sicilians were originally thought of as black. Remember, because of the
Yeah,
complexion of their skin.
yeah.
It's just
Well,
ridiculous.
'cause Ethiopia and
Right.
Sicily are pretty close, and yeah, and I have, thank you for that. That makes me feel uplifted as well. I have, yeah, my teacher, the Reverend Bridge Feltis. She's a real inspiration in my life. She has a course called Heal Thyself,
Uh-huh.
for those who are racialized as white.
Hmm.
And I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, so I have a very, it's an extremely racist place. That is, Martin Luther King said that Chicago was the most racist place he'd ever been in, and he was not a popular man in his life. So that was kind of a bold statement. It's still a very racially segregated city, and there's a lot of just conceptions and preconceived notions that need to be broken down, and it takes time and energy, and it takes conversations that may not finish in one or two sessions. They may be ongoing, and you have to have skills to have these kinds of conversations. And we know that diversity in businesses helps the bottom line.
Yes,
It's
it does.
better. It's better to have women. It's better to have Black people, people of color. It's better to have disabled people, because
Absolutely.
that rising tide lifts all the boats. That kind of equity and inclusion, because lots of times when we're talking about equity and inclusion and diversity, the disability is left
Left
out.
out. Yes, it is. Amen. You
Yeah.
preach. Amen. Yep.
And it's like, I'm not ever going to be Black in this lifetime, but I will become disabled
Hell,
in
I'm
this.
already there. But you know something though?
Hmm.
The problem is we need to learn new definitions. We need to learn new words. Like, so I'm not comfortable with diversity, equity, and inclusion because I don't know what they mean. I can go to the Oxford Dictionary and look it up and it tells me what but I mean, what exactly does that mean? So if I'm company A, I've got X number of employees, and someone says diversity, equity, inclusion, one of my things, the first thing you do is see a picture of a Black or a brown person. The first thoughts come to your mind. Then the
Right.
next thing that's coming to your mind is a woman. Then the
Mhm.
next thing is coming to your mind is like pay, and all these things. We don't need to hear this. And I often ask people, like if you had $1 million, you got $1 million in your hand right now, and a bunch of people showed at your house and said, "Hey, I want some of that $1 million."
Mhm.
How likely are you to give it to them? And that's power, right? So someone's got all this power, and here are all these people over here who want some of it. What's the ability to relinquish that power without relinquishing that power, if you know what I mean? So if you are the power broker, if you're the person with all the power and all these people over here want some, can you share it and still remain on top?
Well, I mean, if we could look to Native American teachings, their wealth was measured by how much they could give away.
Absolutely. And there
Hmm.
are a lot of people that give away, but I mean, I think that really that thought of like what is the boys with the most toys and all these kind of things, and all these. So the thought of power and power sharing is not an ideal thought. It's not someplace you wrap your mind around and say, hey, I'm Mara, I'm coming over to your house later on today. I just want one of the $100 million. I just want one. So why don't you give me one? And for no reason at all. I have no idea why uh you would give it to me, but you have it and I want it. So I'm coming over there. I'll be over there tomorrow at a certain time. I'll come in and get the $1 million. That is a pretty fearful
Hmm.
and threatening statement to you because you don't know what I just asked. I just told you I'm coming over tomorrow to get the money. Am I going to hurt you to get it? And what am I going to do to get it? How is it going to affect your position in the world, in the community, or whatever it is, if I get this $1 million? So when I tell people, I talk to people about diversity a lot. It's like, understand power sharing, right? So you've got this the 1% of the 1% of the richest people in the world, so they all hang out together or somehow another manage to, grow their fortunes further. And they all, a lot of them do charitable things, they give money to philanthropic things and that. But in reality, they aren't giving away anything that they need. They're not giving anything away that would discombobulate them. They're giving away scraps.
Hmm. Yeah.
But that real power, that real power, you know, that you would say, okay, Mara, I have been thinking about this for many years, and I know that if I brought more people in like yourself, I would be able to achieve X. But where's my power going? So now I'm going to share my power with you. So I think that, we have to understand how these words are used when we say diversity and inclusion. And somebody now told me there's a new word, belonging. I don't even know what that one means either. But but in reality, before you're going to get to equality and equity, you're going to have to get people to understand that sharing your power does not mean you lose it.
Exactly.
Sharing your power does not mean you lose it.
Power with, not power over. We're stronger together. We
Right.
are. I mean, like, we are in a mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the only way we're going to get through it is together. And it is by sharing, and it is by collaborating, and it is through mutual aid. Mhm.
Thank you so much for chatting with me today. You are lovely. Your spirit, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful spirit, beautiful spirit.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for doing this with me. I hope you will do it with me again in the future.
I would love that.
And I'll send you a link to the recording. Probably not today because I'm probably gonna have a nervous breakdown after I hang out with you. But I will. I promise you'll get it tomorrow. And again, I know some of everybody and anybody, and I would just say um, there's so few souls that I have encountered like yours.
Oh, wow. Well,
So
thank you. Thank you. I'm giving you a virtual hug.
absolutely, absolutely. And have a wonderful, prosperous new year. And we will be in touch again. And like I said, I'll send you a link to the chat so you can listen to it. At some point, let me know if I may upload it. And I just ask you, keep pushing that message. I mean, like I don't know, that divine and those four things you say. Tell everybody you know that. I mean, tell the lady behind the check register. Tell everybody because especially women, but tell everybody those four. Because I mean, that's amazing because
So,
we don't hear it that often, right? Whether we were our children, our significant other, whatever it is, we become so routine with each other, we don't tell each other. But so we don't know how to adapt that as a part of our person. That I am, all of these things. No, I'm just a misaligned black woman. So that's what I
oh,
hear
but
most
you're not.
often.
Oh, but you're not.
Oh, I know, but I mean that's what I hear most often is how terrible I am. I rarely hear how wonderful I am. So one of them things, I've long since been taking the gunny sack off. I don't wear that stuff that people throw at me anymore. I did one of these chats last week, I think, and I did it for girls. So the girl in the mirror, right? So the
Yeah.
girl in the mirror is a little girl looking at a grown woman, and
Mhm.
all the things that happen to that little girl over time. It is necessary for the person looking in the mirror to heal that little girl.
Mhm.
And you heal it by every time you hear something, every time someone says something to you, you don't automatically own it. You
Mhm.
forgive them and move on. I think Brene Brown said, assume grace.
Yeah.
Assume grace
Yes.
for yourself. Forgive yourself.
Mhm.
Love yourself. We are
Amen.
great at loving others, but
Yeah.
ourselves, a bit harder.
Yeah. Yep. I know. And that's where it has to start. Okay. Well, thank you. We'll be in touch. Mwah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Wonderful new year. And
You as
I
well.
can't wait till you get your side hustle off the chat's gonna be right there with you.
Okay. Perfect. It's
Thank
a
you.
deal.
Stay
Thank you.
safe. Bye.
Bye.